because so many of them want to come up. I'm Bill Ganon, I'm from Devlin Enterprises, and we have a great new solution to make water. And all of a sudden, I'm like, already turned off. Why? They opened it and talked about what? So what I suggest to everyone is, look, you got to open with the problem, with the opportunity. Make me, 3 great words for this, make me care. So I was at a business networking group, and we go around the room, and one person works with Entergy, another person works at a real estate company, another person may have their own business, and then I come upon a funeral director, and we spend 2 minutes in these round tables introducing ourselves. You know these, Jack. And an executive director of a funeral home starts to speak. And it was the most compelling 2 minutes I'd ever heard for a business. Do we know what goes on in funeral homes? We know what funeral homes are there for, right? Do we want to know what we're really there for? Do we want to know what's going on in the back room? No. But that's really why they're there. They're there because of the back room. So she spent 2 minutes talking about how our place will restore any legacy that your folks, that you want to leave with this departed person. Sports, music, cooking, it doesn't matter. We will allow you to decorate and blow out this area. We are going to make sure that you have a legacy that you believe, because we have nothing more than the cherished memory, and we want to make sure that people that are there can celebrate, and all these great verbs and adjectives about my heart, right? Not about what we do, it's about the heart. And that made me write this blog, which is on my site, and here are the critical pieces that I found. Why you do what you do is so much more interesting than what you do. Why I do it and why I care and why it changes people's lives is so much more interesting than I run a team of this many and then we do this, do this. And believe me, folks, the word love belongs in a lot of presentations, because what you love to do beats the heck out of what you like to do. And now you're figuring out how to get into that core content. We just want to hear about the things you love about what you do. We just want to hear about the whys. We'll get to the what's later. Now we're bringing in our presentation to a landing. Bringing the plane in for a landing, folks, in closing. So I'd like to sum up by saying, this is a pretty important part, right? Just like landing in a plane is. We all like cruising at 35,000 feet, but let's face it, when we come in and we feel the bumps, we pray to God these are the best pilots that have ever been trained, because we're coming in for that trickiest part of a flight, the landing, okay? And likewise in a presentation, it's probably the most critical part, is the landing. So, bookending. Think about quotes, and we'll touch on this also, Dr. J. Quotes are a great way to start a presentation, right? If when we cease to dream, we cease to live, right? Could be the opening of a presentation. So you know what? You bookend it at the end. As I said in the beginning of the presentation, when you cease to dream, you cease to live. And what that does is give the audience a chance to kind of bookend it. They've got their packet now. I know how you opened, I know how you finished. It mentally contains it for them. That's another technique. If I had a nickel for every time I've heard, that's a great question, right? There's a big problem with that's a great question. Number one, there's not that many great questions. There really aren't. Number two, if I start giving out great question badges, what happens when I don't? Well, that means that my question wasn't nearly as good. And notice you said they had a great question. Great question. And if I give everybody a great question answer, a badge, then what? There dilutes all the great. So then, in other words, any question is, in other words, it's a pretty nervousy, not terribly genuine question and response. Therefore, I have this for you instead. A question is a gift. A question is something that I've gotten you to think about. Somehow what I've talked about has given you enough to think about. And you've given me the gift of your thoughts formed in a question. And what do I say when I accept a gift? Thank you for the question. It's so consistently good. Thanks for that, Richard. Thanks for that, Dr. Tammy. I appreciate that. Here's my thoughts on that. Thank you for the question. If you don't know the person's name, that's fine. Interesting is fine. Interesting point. Let me say that, okay, that's okay. But that's a great question we want to definitely avoid.
I'll start right here. So LaShonda asked, can you speak to the black screen? And I've asked you, LaShonda, if you can give me a little bit more information to your question.
Shall do. So the black screen that's been hanging there gives you a break from all this. It gives you a break from reading. It gives you a break from looking at my pictures and all my words and all this, right? I love slides. I'm a passionate slide giver. I just hate giving bad slides. So the black slide is that great moment where you can say, here's the one thing I want you to remember from this presentation, folks. Right now, you are my prisoner. I have you. There is no way out of this room. It's just a black slide behind me. And what I'm going to say next is pretty vital to land it. Right? So think about what your black screen line is, because it really will drive this home. Right? The most important thing to remember from today's presentation is the speaker is not the most important people in the room, the audience is. And the more you give speeches and talks with that as your paradigm, the more successful you'll be. Thank you very much. This isn't a group I have to worry about this too much, but you've seen the eyes down. When I'm not looking at you, I'm looking. Hard for me to smile. And yet this is undoubtedly one of the more uplifting presentations you'll ever have. It's because our brains take over into concentration mode. So you do have to allow yourself, right, to connect with the people. And the only way you can connect is with a smile and eye contact. So you're saying walk, Bill. You've noticed I've been trying to move. However, I have seen people literally give a presentation like this. And when I call this the caged puma, you know. It keeps their brain going, but let's be honest. This is like a tennis match after a while, right? Movement really helps when you're trying to make a point. If I lose this side of the room, I want to make sure I get some time over here with you all. Then you feel like I'm with you. By the way, I saw Elton John the other night. Lucky me. His piano starts on one side, and then the stage magically moves him in an arc to the other side of the stage. Why? We know why, right? So that when he stands up over there and takes his bows, they feel connected. So likewise, you want to think about that gentle arc around the stage and just make sure you're talking to the room. Let me leave you with this. We are still in a human business. The beauty about what we do as speakers, and one of the things that I think I love about speaking, is that this is really one of the best places for human connection. Folks, for 5,000 years, and you can go to the pyramids, we can go way earlier, but for 5,000 years, how did people communicate? Like this. They told each other face to face. Sure, we sent messengers over the Greek countryside with messages, and yes, we developed telegraph and all that. And maybe the telephone was a big breakthrough in 1874, but even then it was a real live time conversation. It just happened to be over a long wire. Our brains and our souls are wired for interpersonal communication, which is why public speaking and why giving presentations is so vital. This is how we communicate. You know when it all changed? In the 90s. You know what was introduced? Email.